Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to Breslov Research Institute web seminar for Parshat Shelach. This week we have a very, very interesting and frightening parsha. We have to backtrack to last week's parsha Lashon, which we didn't say last week. But we have to understand that in Lashon, it's like the whole attitude of the Jewish nation changes. Till then, well, they did commit the major sin of the golden calf, but that was once, and they rectified it by building the sanctuary. And that entire time, it was a good half year, from the time that Moshe Rabbeinu effected forgiveness for them, and they built the sanctuary, they dedicated it, and then they were about to leave and go to Eretz Yisrael. In fact, Rashi brings in last week's parsha that Hashem wanted to bring the Jews to Eretz Yisrael from where they were in a 3-day period. But what happened? They got stuck. First, they had Lashon, they have the misonanim. Misonanim are the complainers. All of a sudden, they're eating manna from heaven, a heavenly food, right? Something that nobody else really ate, only them. And the Gemara says that when the manna would melt, the waters, they would absorb the waters, and the animals would drink those waters, and then the non-Jews would eat from the manna from the animals, and they would taste an exquisite taste, an incredible taste. All of a sudden they complained, we can't take the manna anymore. All right? We can't take it, we don't want it, and they're going on. Rashi says a very interesting thing there, and he says, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, if it wasn't for the fact that I planted my presence, my indwelling presence, the Shekhinah, inside every one of you, you would never have the guts to complain like you do. So it's really the greatness of the Jew, the manna that they ate, was because of their exposure to Hashem, that Hashem planted within each and every one a part of Him, as it were, so that a person could feel the indwelling presence of Hashem. Then right after that, you have at the end of the parsha last week, Miriam speaking against her brother Moshe. Imagine that. Moshe Rabbeinu, who took the Jews out of Egypt, who went up to heaven, he brought down the Torah, he effected forgiveness, he watched over them. The Gemara says the manna came in the merit of Moshe, and yet his sister Miriam spoke against him. Aaron spoke against him. What you're seeing is a flow from top to bottom, where the Jews were on top of the world, and all of a sudden they're exposed. They have the misonanim, then they have the complaints against the man, then they have Miriam with Moshe, and now we come to Parshat Shelach. Shelach, the Gemara in Erchin, teaches us the laws of Lashon Hara, a lot of it which is studied and learned from the blemishes of the spies. It's the story of the spies. Rashi in Devarim tells us that the Jews should have been able to walk right into Eretz Yisrael and take over the land immediately. They should never have had to fight a battle. But because of the spies, they had to take up to war. That's the sin of slander. Slander is war. Slander is what makes strife, arguments, separations between husband and wife, between friends, neighbors, communities, shuls, right? Did you ever see a shul without an argument in it? Right? Slander. Lashon Hara. And included in Lashon Hara is all different types of evil speech, like profanity, lies, because what did the Meraglim say? They told truth, but they told lies, and so on and so forth. So the slander also included lies, and it doesn't matter if slander is true. If it's slander, you can't speak it. The spies slandered the land of Israel. The Brisker Rav, when he first moved to Israel, he took a minion of people down to the Kotel, and he said Tillim, and he prayed. He said, Hashem, I'm here in Israel. I don't know the exact words, but this is the way the story goes. I came here to Eretz Yisrael. Please help me. I never become a spy. I never say anything bad about the land of Israel. Well, we have a generation today. They have newspapers, they have radio, they have television, they report the news. And the only thing you'll see them speaking about Eretz Yisrael is bad. You'll never see them speaking good. You may say, I'm speaking bad about the newspapers, but then the newspapers are all evil anyway, right? It's no different than the Washington Compost or the New York Slimes or any other of those other newspapers that, all the news that's fit to print, and none of it is really fit to print, none of it. And yet whatever, the newspapers here in Israel, same kind of thing and whatnot, they are the spies. They are the Lashon Hara of the generation. They are the ones who bring forth the bad and the evil that's within every government, within every community, within every person. That's what they are. And it's not to say that the governments aren't guilty or the individual isn't guilty. We may have done something wrong as an individual, as a community member, or as a politician. Well, a politician is a given, they do it wrong. But whatever the story is, why the slander? Why every day ram somebody else? This is no good, that's no good, nothing's good. That's what the spies did. You know what their punishment was for listening to the spies, for accepting 600,000 Jewish men. Then you had the women and children, and the whole people, even the Erev, they all gathered and said, what the heck? Look what the spy said. 12 people, 10 of them came back with a bad report. They immediately infected millions of people and branded into their minds that Eretz Yisrael is not good, right? 10 people did that. That's the media. That's what goes on in the world today. That's what goes on between people. This is no good, that's no good, and whatnot. 40 years they had to stay in the desert and punished so that none of them will end up seeing the beauty of Eretz Yisrael. My friends, is it worth it? Right? This happened to those people then. What happens to us now if we say something bad about Eretz Yisrael? What happens to us now if we say something bad about our friends? Lashon Hara, the Gemara says, a person could stand in Israel and he can kill somebody in Rome. That's what newspapers do. They kill the person's reputation, they destroy them. And if they find out 6 months later that it was all false, and they destroyed a person for nothing, and they hammered him for nothing, they'll put in a 2-line apology, whatever. Does that make up for the Lashon Hara that was spoken? No. 40 years we had to run around the desert. 40 years we had to stay there in that blistering heat just because 10 people went and they persuaded the entire Jewish nation that something was wrong. That's what happens when you have slander. That's what happens when you have lies, right? the big lie, as they call it, right? Somebody says something wrong, a lie once, and you repeat it, it becomes like the truth and whatnot, the big lie. We have to hope and pray very hard. And we have to do a lot of praying to Hashem to save us from this terrible sin of slander. The end of the Parsha ends off with the mitzvah of tzitzis. The Gemara says wearing tzitzis is as if a person observed the entire Torah. It's as if he observed the entire Torah. So that, in a way, it's a tshuva. Wearing tzitzis is a tshuva for Lashon Hara too. We have to ask Hashem that we merit to do the mitzvahs. The Gemara says whoever wears tzitzis, he will merit to receive the Shekhinah, to receive the indwelling presence that we mentioned at the beginning. But they all had the indwelling presence, but they blemished it. If we wear tzitzis, Hashem will help us, that we'll accept the Shekhinah and we'll be able to do the right things with it. We'll be able to do good. We'll be able to help our friends. We'll be able to speak good of others and not chas v'shalom slander. And with that, may Hashem help us that we all merit to see the coming of Mashiach and the building of the Beis HaMikdash speedily in our day. Amen.